Tonight, we will be continuing our series of shiurim, of classes. Of course, Shav Mitzvahs Bnei Noyach, but particularly what we've been focusing on for the past number of classes is the mitzvah of dinim, of having laws. That's one of the 7 Noachide commandments. In a certain sense, that is the 7th mitzvah, that the Bnei Noyach, the world, the non-Jewish world, has to have a system of laws. And again, to remind everybody, what we're doing is an essay, a very thorough and detailed essay by Rabbi Mendel Kasher. He is the author of the series of Torah Sheleimah, and this is in the original volume 17 of the Torah Sheleimah, which is on Parshas Mishpatim, and this is in what's called the Miluim, the supplements, if you will. So we are now currently on page 221, and the discussion at hand over here is, and again, without repeating and reviewing the past hours of discussion, but where we're up to right now, which is really the whole point of this article of his, if you will, is for Bnei Noyach, this mitzvah, this commandment of dinim, of having laws. Is it, one option is, that there's no reason why they shouldn't, and therefore this is actually the mitzvah, that the Bnei Noyach should have the same civil laws that the Jewish people have, that the Torah mandates for the Jews, interacting one person with another person. So we're not speaking about the rituals of between man and his creator, such as the mitzvah of donning tefillin for Jewish men on their arm and on their head, or eating matzah on Passover, or living in a sukkah on Sukkot, etc., etc., etc. Talking about all those laws, which are civil laws, and they govern interaction in business and claims one may have against another person as far as damages are concerned and all that, which is primarily found in Parshas Mishpatim in the Torah. And one approach is that's what dinim means for Bnei Noyach. Why should they reinvent the wheel? Or why should they have a system in place which is man-made and therefore imperfect? Why don't they take the divine law? If Hashem is telling us meaning the Jewish people, in the Torah, how to deal with your neighbor, how to deal with your associate, how to deal with your partner in business, so that should work for all of mankind. I mean, after all, this is Hashem's law. That's one approach. Or, alternatively, B, dinim simply means that people are supposed to come up with a set of laws and a system that is going to work for them. And it can change from one location to the other and from one period of time to the other. And it's up to each civilization to implement, to invent laws and to implement them. And then once they do that, that becomes, so to say, God-given, because he's the one who said, have laws, make dinim, and then keep them. So whatever the country comes up with, whatever the governing body comes up with and decides is law, then that is binding for the Bnei Noyach, for the non-Jew, by Torah law. And the last thing that we learned last time, so the argument was made pretty strongly that it is the latter. That for Bnei Noyach, what they're supposed to do is have a set of rules, and they can change them from time to time, again, so long as it doesn't touch upon the other 6, because those 6 are clearly God-given, so they can't tamper with that. But otherwise, as far as civil laws are concerned, they are to make them up as they go along. So when you go from one country to the other, what is considered legal in one country may be illegal in a different country, and you need to abide by the law of the land. All right, that brings us now to the left-hand column on page 221. And the heading is Raya misifrei shedine b'nei noyach nimusiyim. Now we're going to bring a proof from what's known as the Sifrei, commonly pronounced Sifri. The Sifrei or Sifri is a Tanaic compilation of commentary on Torah, on the written law, and it's not as clear necessarily as Mishnah or as the Babylonian Talmud, and there are various different versions or manuscripts of it, but pretty much it's part of the oral tradition. And if there's being that officially non-Jews are not supposed to learn Torah, and the part of Torah that they're not supposed to learn is the oral law, and Sifri is definitely part of the oral law. However, anything which is relevant and anything which is certainly directly connected to Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noyach seemingly is no problem for the B'nei Noyach to study, and on the contrary, they would be encouraged to do so. So that's just sort of a disclaimer, and people should not be too concerned or scared that we're learning so much and in such depth. Everything that we're doing over here in these classes from this article of Rabbi Kasher is directly, and it's all discussing the mitzvah of dinim for Bnei Noach. So with that, let us proceed and see what he has to say. But again, this is going to be a proof from the Sifri that it is the latter approach. V'nire lahavi raya l'divrei hameiri. And it seems that we can bring a proof for the words of the Meiri. The Meiri was what we brought down at the end of the last class, that he, the Meiri, clearly states that dinim for Bnei Noyach is nimusiim. It's manners, it's laws that are common sense that they're supposed to come up with in each society. So what's the proof that that's the way it is? From the language, Miloshen HaSifri, Dvarim, Perek Tezayid, in the book of Dvarim, chapter 16. And we quote the Sifri. Kach haya midasei shel Rabbi Yishmael Chuli. So was the measure, or the approach, or the conduct, if you will, of Rabbi Yishmael, the Tana. Im bedinei umay sa'olam haya mezake chulu. If, according to the laws of the nations of the world, the Jew was found to be acquitted or would be the innocent party, then he would follow those laws. And if it was according to the laws of the Torah, the Jewish law, then he would follow those laws. So if you recall, we did quote that there are, that there is this law that if a Jew and a Ben Noyach are coming to a Jewish court of law to settle their dispute, and the Ben Noyach is coming willingly and he wants to be governed by the Beis Din, by the Jewish court, so then we have the rule that if, according to the secular law of that time and that country, the Jew would win in a secular court, so then even if Jewish law were to be different, and if it would be between two Jews, if the plaintiff and the defendant would be two Jews, we would then judge differently. But here we go according to the secular law because it's in favor of the Jew. And if, according to the Jewish law, it is in favor of the Jew in this case, then we would ignore the secular law and we would again go according to the Jewish law because it's in favor of the Jew. Doesn't sound too fair. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Ein Tzarich. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, no, that's not necessary. and meaning ein rashoy la'asois kach zayis ra'anon. The commentary on the Sifri, which we brought down beforehand also on his commentary on the Yalkut Shimoini, the Zayis Ra'anon. The Zayis Ra'anon is, for those that are familiar, none other than the Magen Avraham. In the Shulchan Aruch, one of the two main commentaries on the original Shulchan Aruch of the Beis Yosef, the Code of Jewish Law, on the side is the great Magen Avraham. Zayis Ra'anon is his commentary on other Svarim of Torah, Midrashic writings. So, the Zayis Ra'anon explains Rabbi Shimon Gamliel saying that is not appropriate. The way Rabbi Shmuel says, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, he disagrees. And he says, Im ba ladun b'dinei Yisrael, if this non-Jew who has a dispute with a Jew is coming to be judged according to Jewish law, hayadan b'dinei Yisrael. So you have to judge him by Jewish law, whether it's in favor of the Jew or whether it's in favor of this non-Jew. You have to go by Torah law. V'im b'dinei u'mesa'elam hayadan b'dinei u'mesa'elam. And if he would wish to be judged according to the law of the nations of the world, according to the secular law, then that's what you have to follow, whether it's in favor of the Jew or in favor of the non-Jew. Atkan. Up to here is the quote of the Sifri. And then Rabbi Kasher continues, and he quotes, he tells us, Uve Sifri, Rebbe Lazar Finkelstein, Mikis Veyad. So then there's another version of the Sifri from a Rabbi Finkelstein, who he got it from manuscripts. And over there it reads as follows, Shelo yomer Torah elo ushfatetem tzedek. That the Torah says you are to judge justly. It has to be righteous. In other words, there's none of this trying to have the Jew win. I mean, no one said that you make the Jew win no matter what, because if according to Torah law, and as well according to the secular law, the non-Jew would be in the right and the Jew would not win, so then of course even Rabbi Shmuel agrees that you would do that. But otherwise, this seemingly unfair approach, we say, that's not to be done by a Jewish court, because the pasuk says, the verse says, judge righteously. Uvepashtus advarim shel Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, and therefore the simple meaning, the simple understanding of the words of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, moirim, they are indicating shenachri, that a non-Jew, sheba, that comes, that he approached, shiadunu oisai, that he should be judged b'dinei u'mesa'olam. What does he mean that he wants to be judged according to the nations of the world? Hakavana, the intention here is b'dinim hanoyagim eitzel u'mesa'olam achshav. He wants to be judged according to the law that the nations of the world currently follow. In other words, it's subject to change. So in this country where he is, and he has this dispute with a Jew, if he wants to be judged by Dinei Umay Sa'olam, by the civil laws, he means the current civil laws in this time and in this place. Hainu, meaning to say, Dinim Nimusiyim. Again, these are laws which are proper, logical manners, Kloimar Dina de Malchusa, meaning to say, law of the land, not Torah law. So according to the reading in this Sifri of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion, it's very clear that what do we mean, Torah law versus secular law? That there is secular law at the time that has what to say about this particular case. And if such a case were to be heard, if there were two non-Jews appearing before a secular court, they would judge in a certain way. And this is not referring to the dinim that was customary by Bnei Noach prior to the giving of the Torah. We're not going back some 4,000 years ago. We're not saying, why don't we do what Bnei Noach did between the Great Flood and the revelation at Sinai? Oh, that's irrelevant what the laws were then and how the world properly conducted itself then. That was then. Laws change. Well, so according to this approach, then even in Rabbi Shmuel's opinion, who says that you always go for the benefit of the Jew if there's any such room, same thing though. He says if there is room for justifying the Jew according to Jewish law, go by Jewish law. And if according to the secular law, what secular law? Of the current time, in the current location. If in that place, then you go according to that. And as the Meiri wrote. So basically, Rabbi Kasher just brought support for that approach, for the Meiri's approach, from this Sifri. V'nireh mikan, and it appears from here, shechachmei Yisrael, that the Jewish sages, the wise of the Jews, yadu hadinim hanimusim shel bnei Noach. Obviously, according to this dispute between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, we have to say that the Chachmei Yisrael, the Jewish sages, knew the common current law of the Bnei Noach. Because it is relevant for a number of issues, because we say Dina de Malchusa Dina, that the law of the land is law. Now, although that's a topic for itself, to what extent do we say that? When does it really apply? Does it apply across the board? Is it only in a specific area? But let's just suffice for now to say that this rule, that the Gemara says, and the Shulchan Aruch rules this way, that Dina de Malchusa Dina, that's Aramaic, which means the law of the Malchus, of the government of the time, of the place, is law. That means that so long as it does not contradict Torah law, it is binding for the Jews living in that country at the time as well. It's certainly binding for the Bnei Noach, as long as it does not contradict or go against in any way their 6 mitzvahs. And it's also binding for the Jews, so long as it does not go against anything Jewish. It can't go against a Jewish mitzvah, a Jewish rabbinic law, or even a Jewish custom. As long as it does not infringe upon anything which the Torah clearly says what to do, then we have to follow the common law of the land at the time. Now he's referencing 2 different places in the responsa of the Divrei Chaim. The Divrei Chaim was the Tzanzer Rebbe, Rabbi Halberstam, and he was a big, great halachic authority in Jewish law. He was a Hasidic Rebbe, and he is considered to be one of the authorities in Jewish law of the most recent generations. So in 2 places in his responsa, there's obviously a discussion over there which would support what we're saying over here, the Dina de Malchusa Dina, that the law of the land is binding. Now, if that's the case, the Jewish judges have to have certain knowledge of the law of the land. Because if, let's say, you have 2 Jews coming to a court case, to a Beis Din, to a Jewish court, and they're arguing about something, and Torah law doesn't specify necessarily in this particular case, well, then they need to know, well, what's the law of the land? They need to do their research. So that's what he's saying, that presumably they are learned to a certain degree, to a great degree, in the law of the land. And I actually know that in many cases, a Beis Din would, they have their accountant to help them out in that area, and they also have lawyers and even sometimes judges of the secular court to be able to assist them and give them necessary information. Furthermore, we quoted a commentary in the previous piece from the Merkeves. So he brought down from Tractate Bechiris 13a. B'dinehem, when it comes to the laws of the non-Jewish world, so the Talmud there is discussing about interaction between a Jew and a non-Jew in buying or in selling different things. So we have a concept in Jewish law called a kinyan. A kinyan is acquisition. How do you transfer something from one person and make that property belong to someone else? So in Jewish law, between two Jews, it's very clear and it's very detailed, and it depends on what you're talking about. Is it a movable object? Is it livestock? Is it real estate? It all depends what the issue at hand is. So, by a Jew, there's a concept of meshicha, that he needs to pull it. If it's an animal, let's say, so it may not be enough to just pay for it or to have an agreement or sign on the dotted line, the contract, but he has to pull it. Now, b'dinehem, according to the non-Jewish law, if he did not pull it, he still acquired it. Elo Amar Abaye, so over there Abaye, the Amora states, b'dinehem shepaskalem Torah. When you say b'dinehem, so that means what the Torah has ruled for them. Atkan, up to here is the quote from the Gemara, Va'ayin berit al Gazi sham. And then we are referenced to take a look in a commentary called the Rit al Gazi on that Gemara, on that piece in Bechiros 13. Okay, so now, Abaye says that according to B'dineim Shepaska Lahem Torah, that the Torah has issued. Meaning, who says that by a non-Jew the animal can be transferred, the ownership can be transferred without doing Meshicha? The Torah says so. And he quotes a verse. So now he's going to say, well, that seems to go against what we're saying now. That seems to say that we do go by the Torah law. Till now, the argument we've been making is, who cares? There is no Torah law per se for them. It's whatever they decide, that's the Torah law. And now we're saying, no, Abaye quotes a verse to show you that for non-Jews, there is no Meshicha required. So let's see it inside. Third line in this paragraph. Ulechaoira, and apparently, mivuar mikan, it is explained from here, lehevya, explicitly, mashakasav merkeves, as the Merkeves wrote, shapirush b'dinehem, that the meaning, the interpretation of the word b'dinehem according to their laws, it is not like I wrote above. It seems to contradict what I wrote. Shehainu kifi adinim hanimusim shalahem, meaning it's according to their laws that they make up. This seems to contradict that. Amnam, however, b'shayos v'tshuvas harashba hamyuchasis la'Ramban siman reish chafhei. In the responsa, which is called the response of the Rashba, but others say that it's really the Ramban. That's actually the title. It's Rashba hamyuchasis to the Ramban. So, what does it say there? In section 225, Kasav, he writes, V'zelashona, and we quote, Nirin hadvarim, the matter appears as such. Kevan de b'dinehem, since according to their laws, the non-Jews, bizman hazeh, nowadays, in our current times, koinim zeh mizeh bekesef, they acquire property one from the other simply using money. You gave the money, it's yours. So now he's going to say, well, that seems to go against what we're saying now. That seems to say that we do go by the Torah law. Till now, what we've been making is, who cares? There is no Torah law per se for them. It's whatever they decide, that's the Torah law. And now we're saying, no, Abaye quotes a verse to show you that for non-Jews, there is no Meshicha required. So That's how it became yours. So legally, when was the transaction complete? When did it transfer ownership? So what's common practice amongst the non-Jews at this time, which when he was speaking, was you pay. You give money. Af anu, so to us, minayu koinim bohem bekesef kedinehem. So that's how we acquire property from the non-Jews according to their law. In other words, we don't need to do meshicha. If I'm buying an animal from another Jew, so I, as a Jew, am buying an animal from a Jew, then I have to do meshicha. And until I do that, it's not mine, and the ownership hasn't transferred. And there are so many relevant, issues legally as to who cares who the owner is at that second. There are many, many cases why it would make a difference. Okay, so between two Jews, there's meshicha. There's pulling of the animal. But since, by the non-Jewish law, the civil law between two non-Jews, all you need is to make the payment, therefore that's how a Jew acquires an animal from a non-Jew, by paying the money. He doesn't say, well, I'm Jewish, so then I have to do the meshicha. No, he's not Jewish, and according to his laws, it's the payment that transfers the ownership. Let it be that it's no more than this is their custom. This is what they've been doing, the non-Jews. Hanhaga milsa. So what he's saying over here, the Rashba, Hanhaga, conduct, the manner, the accepted norm, that is word, that is valid, that is binding. And even by a Jew, etc. The kol shekin, how much more so, benidin shelafanenu, in the case that's before us, shaharei omru, for they have stated, imata yochel l'chayve b'dineim chayvim chulu. Again, going back to the words that we said, that if you're able to make the non-Jew guilty and the Jew innocent in that court case, so he said, go according to their law. In other words, we do follow the non-Jewish law. And that which they said over there, that if a Jew gave money, and again it says kusi, but it's very likely just a matter of censorship, and as we said many times, it could just be any non-Jew. It doesn't have to be this particular kusi. So it says that if a Jew gave the money to the kusi for his animal, so then according to their laws, the non-Jewish laws, the animal now became the Jews. Even though the Jew did not pull the animal, he bought it, he has acquired it. Mishum, because the basar dina da'iraisa shadinan lehu. Because we go according to the biblical law. Dil mahasam, perhaps over there, b'makim shein minag yadua, where there is no known custom of how you buy animals, look ma'adinayu v'chulu. So then let's establish it, let's follow their laws. V'einoi nire, and it doesn't appear, shenoagu likneis b'mashicha v'chulu. It doesn't seem like the non-Jewish world has this custom of acquiring an animal by pulling it. It seems like it's by paying money. You pay for the money even though it's still in the stable or in the barn of the seller. You paid the money, it's yours. And now let's say at that moment the animal just died, got a heart attack and died of no fault of anybody. There was no way to prevent that. Whose loss is that? Does he have to return the money? No. It was yours. It was still my property, but we have witnesses that I didn't do anything wrong. None of my animals harmed it, and it would have happened, So you gave the money. It's your animal. So we don't find that in the non-Jewish world of buying and selling, there's this concept when it comes to animals of having to pull it. Aval, however, vadai certainly l'chayev akusi, to obligate the non-Jew laseis lo liyisrael behemazu, to give to the Jew this animal shekana that the Jew bought, chiyuve mechayvile beveidina. So we will obligate him to give it in court. In other words, let's say the non-Jew who received the money, he changes his mind, and he says, I'll give you back your money. I'll reimburse you. I changed my mind. You never touched my animal yet. You gave me all the money in full. And thanks, but no thanks. I want to give it back to you. I changed my mind. And the Jew says, I'm sorry. I don't accept the money. I want my animal. What would we do in that case? So we would do what they would normally do in the secular court. We would say, no trade backs. Too late. He gave you the money. You took the money. So therefore, that's what we would do. Whereas if it was between two Jews, the law would be different. We would tell...
It would depend on what the laws in that...
So we're assuming that the laws for the non-Jewish world is that once you took the money, it's yours.
Okay.
And it's irrelevant as to whether the person took the item or not, or in this case, the animal or not. Because then you could say, well, how about if he took the animal and then he changes his mind? I mean, till when? So if you have your own contract, then you say you have 5 years to go back on the deal, that's something else. But if there's nothing like that, it's a regular case, when are we to assume that you took ownership and therefore neither one of you can change their mind? You need both of you to agree to change your mind. So we say once he gave him the money and he accepted it. You accepted payment. That's it. I mean, think about it legally today. If someone paid you for something and you accepted the payment, you cashed the check. You can't then come afterwards and say, sorry. Even though in Jewish law, you certainly would be able to, because the guy did not pull the animal yet. He did not acquire the animal. So let's say, here's the case. It's a Jew who is buying an animal from a non-Jew. And the Jew gave him the money and the guy took the money. And then the non-Jewish seller, the original owner of the animal, changes his mind, and they come to this dispute. They come to Beis Din, to the Jewish court. The Jewish Beis Din would say the Jew wins, even though, according to Torah law, he doesn't, because he didn't do Mashiach. But we say, that's not how you buy things. When you go to a dealer, a car dealer, when a Jew buys a house in the United States of America today from a non-Jew, when he buys a house from a homeowner, he wants to buy the house, it's up for sale, and he buys it from a non-Jew. How do they go about doing it? According to the laws of the United States. And let's say that they did what it took to finish the acquisition in a way that legally you cannot back out any longer. You bought it. But by Torah law, because of the technicality, it's not yet yours, and the seller could still back out. And the non-Jewish seller says, sorry, I changed my mind. I'll give you back all your money, and I'm not selling. And the Jew says, what are you talking about? I paid you in full. Or whatever the law of the land is. I got a mortgage and, whatever. I gave you the down payment, made a closing, whatever the law is. I did it. So you can't back out now. You don't even have a right to back out with a fine. It's not like, okay, you'll have to reimburse me something. No, you don't have that option. It is my home, and you can't back out now. You're as good as anyone else, any other stranger. It was yours, now it's mine. So what would we say in that case? So of course we would say, you go by the law of the land. The question becomes, which we're not discussing right now, what happens if two Jews are doing it? If a Jew is selling it to another Jew in the United States of America, selling a house. So that's where we say it's Dina de Malchus Dina. You can't sell it by Jewish law. I mean, you have to go by the law of the land. You can't come afterwards and claim, well, we're two observant Jews, so we're doing our own thing. That's not going to work. There's certain governing laws that the land will, get involved. It's not a matter of arbitration that you go to a Beis Din and you sign a legal arbitration that you took upon yourself, that whatever they decide, that's because it wasn't clear, who's in the right. But here, in such clear things, it's the same thing. You walk into any store, walk into a Walmart, and by Jewish law, you did not buy the item yet, and according to the legality, you did, and then they have a policy of return, and they have a policy of whatever the case is. You have to go according to the law of the land. So it's that simple. So that's why in this case, the Jew, who's the buyer of the animal, even though he didn't pull the animal and he didn't do the requirement by Jewish law of Meshicha, it's irrelevant. He is 100% the owner because he did that which is required by the law of the land, the civil, non-Jewish law. The Kedineim Daininulei, that like their laws, we judge for them. Uchedamrinon, and as we said, if you are able to make the non-Jew obligated according to their laws, then do so. In other words, if the Jew can win the case by following the secular law, then do that. This is a classical case of what we're referring to. Atkan, up to here is the quote of the Rashba Hamyucheses LaRamban. Umevur midivrei haramban shein kushya me'asugya de b'chayros. Therefore, what comes out over here is that according to this explanation of the Ramban, there is no problem from this discussion here in B'chayros where Abaye makes, according to Pasuk, it doesn't harm us at all, and we are back to our original approach that dinim means whatever civil laws were made up by people at the time. So, as they said here in the United States, by the people, for the people, all that, that's the way it is. Uve'ikar hadovar shekosav, and in the primary idea that he wrote, and we quote, she'ein b'nei noyach chayav al hagram, that a ben noyach is not obligated for causing. Okay, if you remember, he's going back now and quoting. We said that in Bnei Noyach, we don't find that a Ben Noyach is liable for indirect cause of harm. That was a statement that was made. All right, remember that? Let's find it inside.
Is that where the Ben Noach is not liable for his oxen?
Yeah. In other words, we were speaking over there about an ox, which is a tam or a muad, and we said that there's a difference if a Jew's ox scored first time, second offense, right? And then afterwards the third offense and on. So but by a Ben Noyach, we make him have to pay in full, even if it's a first offense. I want to see it inside where we said the Bnei Noach are not chayav, they're not liable for cause.
Merkavas, what does the Yerushalmi mean by according to their law? This would be according to the law. The laws Torah demands of them. To B'nai Noach.
Yeah. Okay, so last time, thank you. What we saw last time, the Merkava says, what does it mean b'dinehem? What does it mean that we judge them according to their laws that the Torah has given them? That even though B'nai Noach are commanded to have dinim, to have laws, nonetheless, an axe of a ben Noach that damaged an axe of another ben Noach, biblically is patur, is exempt. Why? Because a ben Noach is not obligated for cause. And since his ox went and harmed someone else's ox, what do you want from him? So so as long as it's between a ben Noach and a ben Noach, we say that the damager is exempt from any payment. Because B'nai Noach are not obligated for cause. Okay, so now we're quoting that. So Tema asks Rabbi Kasher, this is difficult, it's bewildering. Why? Why doesn't he bring down the words of this Ramban, who explicitly says that B'nai Noach are commanded for the Avos Nezikin? Avos Nezikin is a term used in a Mishnah that speaks about the main categories of damages. The Mishnah says there are four Avos, four fathers, if you will, four main categories of damaging. And it says the B'nai Noach are obligated, and one of them is an ox goring. So B'nai Noach would be obligated. So how does he say that a ben Noach's ox that gores another ben Noach's ox is exempt because they're not obligated in cause, when in fact it says that B'nai Noach do have obligations of the four Avos Nezikin? I mean, four is the way the Mishnah puts it, but we'll see later there's actually, it could break it down to many, many more than four. So that's the question now. Vine, B'tesefta, Bava Kama, Perek Dalit, Halacha Aleph, Muva B'Yerushalmi Sham. So in the Tesefta, which is Tanoic statements that are not Mishnah, in Tractate Bava Kama, chapter 4, it's brought down in the Yerushalmi, and it says as follows. Mivur, it's explained, and we quote. Shor shel Knaani, an ox of a Knaani, again, would mean any non-Jew, not an Eved, but an ox of a non-Jew. Shehizik, shor shel Acher Chaveiroi, that damaged the ox of someone else, his friend, and in the parentheses, the Yesh Garsim Yisrael, and there are those that actually have the reading over here not of someone else's friend, but of a Yisrael, of a Jew. So that would be a big difference. So if the ox of a non-Jew damaged the ox of someone else, and perhaps of a Jew, Afal Pisha Kiblu Aleihem, even though they accepted upon themselves, Ladun, to be judged, B'dina Yisrael, according to Jewish law. He took upon himself to be judged according to Jewish law. And the damager is coming along to the Jewish Beis Din, and he's accepting. He said, I want to be judged by Jewish law. I'm not going to the secular court. I want the Beis Din rabbis to judge. Mishalmi Nezek Shalem. Still, even though it's a first offense, the owner of the damaging ox has to pay in full, which wouldn't be the case if it was a Jew. Because there is no concept of tam and muad when it comes to a non-Jew. It's a very special Torah law that applies only to the ox owned by a Jew, that the first two times he pays half the damages, 50%, and from then on he pays in full. That doesn't exist by an animal owned by a non-Jew. Atkan, up here is the quote. Umefurish b'teisefta. So it comes out clear now from this Tesefta, Shaloi Kamer Keves. Again, not like the interpretation of the Merkeves. Shebnei Noach pturim mishum grama. That the Merkava said the Bnei Noach are exempt from payment because they don't have to, they're not liable for cause, for damage which was just indirectly caused by them, such as his animal damaging. But it's actually the opposite comes out according to this Tosefta. That they're always liable to pay full damage. See, a Jew, he is, when it comes to damages, he is responsible even for grama. Okay, we're very strict, and we say that, look, it's your responsibility, and if anything of yours caused damage in a Jewish case, you're liable to pay. Okay? That's the general rule. And yet, Torah says, when it comes to your ox, first two offenses, only pay half. Here, we said that by the non-Jew, even if it's a first offense, he pays in full. That's being even stricter than with the Jew. And that's only gram, it's only a cause, it's only his animal which did the damage. Umikan muchach. And from here is proof. Sha'perush by Yerushalmi Hanal, that the interpretation of the above mentioned Yerushalmi, K'mashakasav Apnei Moshe, is like the commentary on the Yerushalmi called the Pnei Moshe, one of the main commentaries on the Yerushalmi, the way he interprets it. Meaning, Kedinehen, what does it mean according to their laws? Hainu, meaning L'chayvam Nezek Shalem, to make them pay full damages. Why? Who says they have to pay full damages? The law of the land that they do. That's common practice. If someone's animal damaged someone else, so then the court will say you are liable to pay. They're not going to say, well, it was only caused by your animal, it's not your responsibility, or it was only first offense, so 50%. There's none of that. Someone's animal harmed someone else, they're liable to pay. Unless they have some kind of a policy that covers it or whatever, but okay, but that's the same idea. They're paying insurance and then the insurance covers for it. It doesn't, I mean, it's not exactly the same, but how many times these are stories that happen daily in courts of law that people, employees, sue their employer or the corporation or whatever for what? For things which are, how could they have prevented it? It was like there was something slippery on the stairs or something and somebody slipped and now they sue and they win. Well, what do you want? How could they prevent it? It doesn't matter. It's your property. It's your, building. It's your office. I was there on your time, and I tripped on your wet floor. And we hear all the time that that person would win the case. I mean, obviously, you have to go into the details and so forth, but at least to generalize, that's certainly what it sounds like. So that sounds like, according to the Goyish law that they make up, that's in their hands, you are responsible for grama, for causing, or even less. acronym. I don't know. Mem Ayin. Who did we have before that agreed with the Merkeves?
The Miri disagreed with him.
Right.
It would have been the Rambam that agrees with him, right? I don't know. The Rambam disagreed with the Ravid. Disagreed with the Rambam.
Right.
I don't think the Ravid and the Miri were agreeing.
I don't know who this Mem Ayin is. It sounds like we had it before, the way he's quoting it. He says, not like the Mem Ayin and the Merkeves. All right, I don't know. Well, and not like the Merkeves. Umitam, and for the reason, Sheken Adin B'nei Museihen, because this is the law according to their conduct, that even a non-Jew who only caused damage is liable. Amnam haloshain, however, the language Af al pi shekiblu lodun bedina Yisrael. The words are in the Tosefta that even if they, the non-Jews, took upon themselves to be judged according to Jewish law, tzarich biur. This language needs explanation. According to that language, that is. Ulefia girsa b'Tosefta boir agonos, and according to the other version, where it says not just that the acts of a Kanani damaged the acts of a friend of his, but rather shehizik shor shel Yisrael, that it damaged a Jewish person's acts. And then it says, even though they accepted upon themselves to follow Jewish law, still we make them pay full instead of saying, oh, it's the first offense, so he's a tum, so he only pays 50%. No. Miyushav Shapir. According to this reading, that it's the acts of a non-Jew that record the acts of a Jew, not the acts of another non-Jew. So now, it makes a lot of sense. Shesvira le katana kama b'sifri, that he holds like the opinion in the Sifri, ubavakama kuf yud gimel, and bavakama 1:13a, she'imata yochel zakeu b'dineim zakeu, that if you're able to make the Jew win according to the non-Jewish laws, according to their laws, then do so. Amnam, however, la girsa, according to the version, according to the reading, shehizik shor shel goy, that the acts of a goy damaged the acts of a goy, and then it says that, and they took upon themselves to be judged by Jewish law, and then we said that you obligate him to pay in full, kasher. That seems to be difficult, because it says, even though they took upon themselves to judge according to Jewish law, you still make him pay in full. Upirei Shri Levi B'Yerushalmi Bavakama, and there's a commentary that interprets this Yerushalmi in Bavakama. Lefi Shedina Yisrael Nimshechu B'Nizkei Hagoy, because the laws of Jews extended into the laws of damages of the non-Jew, Achri Dineim, we follow their laws. This is the meaning of what we said, that you always try to give the Jew the benefit, the upper hand, according to their laws.
If you got two non-Jews coming into a beis din,
Right.
a Jewish beis din, they're asking to be judged by Jewish law,
Right.
but they're being asked by just, if the law of the land is the Torah law, then they would be judged according to that, but they're being judged by the Jewish court system because maybe they prefer the Jewish court system over the secular court system.
But now, what are those Jewish judges supposed to follow? Should they
Well, they're following the Torah, and that's what we're trying to determine. What is the Torah for those two non-Jews?
So, should those Jewish judges judge them according to the concept of an animal that's a tum, for example, and therefore say you only pay 50% on the first offense? Or they say, no, that's just for Jews, and therefore they rule for them just as a secular court would? Like, what does it mean the two non-Jews came and they say, we want to be judged by Torah law? Torah law meaning for you, or Torah law for the Jews?
Well, for them, the Torah law would be the law of the land.
So then you really should go to a non-Jewish judge.
Yeah, but if they go to the Jewish judge, then the Jewish judge has to follow they're being asked to follow the Torah.
So in other words, the Jewish judge would have to rule according to the secular law of the land.
Yeah, but maybe he's using a fairness, he's using a level of integrity that the non-Jews appreciate. Maybe.
Fine. That's like why they would rather be judged by this Jewish court, even though. But what is the Jewish court supposed to judge them? How are they supposed to rule? According to what set of rules? According to the civil secular court, right?
Well, I mean, we're trying to determine what is the Torah for these non-Jews, and we seem to be leaning towards it's whatever the civil,
right?
For the locale. Because if they were to then use the Jewish law, then that would mean that the Torah at Sinai is that the Jewish law is available to them.
So he's going to explain now. And in some sefer, he says, Nitchak l'taretz. He really troubled himself and he tried to give an answer. But it was very difficult. It wasn't really too good. And we cannot interpret that what it means that they took upon themselves Ladun b'dinei Yisrael to be judged according to Jewish law, Hainu meaning Dinei Yisrael ben Noyach. That's not what it means. You can't say that when these Goyim came to the Jewish court and they want to be judged by Jewish law, they mean the Jewish law for Bnei Noyach. Because if you're going to interpret it that way, Mazah Shamar Af Al Pi. What is the meaning that it says, even though they took upon themselves to be judged by Jewish law, they still have to pay in full? What do you mean, even though? So this proves she'ein lonu b'Torah b'inyan zeh dinim miyuchadim b'shvil b'nei Noyach. So now he concludes and he says, from this is proof that we don't have in the Torah specific laws for b'nei Noyach when it comes to all of these issues. Ella, rather, tzarich ladunam, they have to be judged kfi dinim nimusiyim shalahem, according to their manners or their logical, acceptable laws, as was explained above. So he very clearly is concluding that what dinim means is that the Torah is mandating that the non-Jewish world have a governing body, have a government, they need to make laws, and everybody has to follow their laws. And if any non-Jews, any Bnei Noyach, come to the Jewish court to be judged by the Jewish court, they are to judge them according to the non-Jewish laws, meaning not what the Torah says Bnei Noach need to do. The Torah doesn't say. If it's not one of the 6 mitzvahs, then the Torah doesn't tell us what to do. So they have to follow, if it's not involving another Jew, if it's 2 non-Jews, so they have to follow what the law of the land. That's very interesting. That means on a practical level, 2 goyim come to the local Beis Din, and they say, we both agree on going according to your law, and we will accept it, and it will be binding. We want you to judge us as you would 2 Jews. So the Beis Din doesn't even have a right. They said, we want to be judged according to you. The Beis Din has to judge them kedineihem, like their laws. And they don't have a right to say, well, according to Jewish law, actually, this and this would be the verdict. Can't do that. They have to go according to the secular law of the land. That's how he concludes. So what comes out explained from the above-mentioned sources, that the laws of the nations of the world are circumstantial, if you will, or made up for the time, and they're a relative. They're not absolutes. And this is what a commentary on the Rambam writes. Alpi Divrei Rashi Gittin Tes, based on the words of Rashi, instructed Gittin 9b. Shadina de Malchusa Dina Umitam Dibnei Noach Nitztavu Ladinim V'Hainu Hach Ein Sham. That the reason why the law of the land is law is because Bnei Noach were commanded of dinim. And then that comes out to be the exact same thing as what we're saying. Take a look in my book itself. Remember, this is a supplement, so it says take a look all the way back on note 28. Very interesting, because the flip side of that is, as he brings down over there in the note, and then he's got a huge footnote on it. But basically, right away, right at the very beginning of Parshas Mishpatim, speaking to the Jew, it says, Ve'ela ha-mishpatim, and these are the laws, asher tosim lifneihem, that you shall place before them. And on that word lifneihem, which is a very crucial word in the Pasuk, so the Chachamim, the sages, have a tradition to interpret that word. What do you mean before them? Lifneim v'loy lifnei goyim. Meaning for a Jew, it's forbidden, and it's a real big sin to go to to take another Jew to the secular court, even if you know that their law is identical to Torah law. So that's the flip side. Let's say you're saying that for integrity or whatever, trust or whatever. Now, how about the other way around? A Jew has a dispute or a claim against another Jew, a fellow Jew. And he knows what the Torah law is, that it's in his favor. And he knows that legally in a secular court it's also in his favor and he would win. And he says, but this person will be forced to accept the legal verdict, whereas if I take him nowadays to some local Beis Din, he won't abide. He'll just, what's going to happen? There's no real recourse that can happen. It's just only so much they can do. What are they going to do? Give out a letter to the Jewish community and say this guy refuses to follow our laws. Whereas in a secular court, they can definitely, do what they have to do. So therefore, the Jew, in such a case, would choose to go to the non-Jewish court. And he's not trying to follow any other laws than Torah laws. He said, I want to follow Torah law, but I want it to be able to be... That's a big sin. He's not allowed to do that. Now, again, there are exceptions, and he can get permission from the Beis Din to do it. But otherwise, the straightforward statement is, It's forbidden for a Jew to go to a secular court, even if he knows that they judge the same way that the Torah does. That in this case that he's dealing with, same law. That's the flip side of it. So here we're saying that if two non-Jews come to the Beis Din and they say we want to be judged by you, and the Torah law is different than the common secular law of the time in that location, they're responsible to judge them according to the non-Jewish law. Interesting. Okay, now he's going to get into a little bit of history. The next while over here. Bit of history. So far, though, Rabbi Kasher has pretty clearly come to a conclusion, and he made the case that dinim for non-Jews means that they are to make up their own laws and that they are to follow common practice of the time. And that is what the Torah mandates, and that is how they fulfill their mitzvah, Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, the mitzvah of dinim, not by following what the Torah says. They don't have to learn Parshas Mishpatim. They don't have to open up the Shulchan Aruch to the section of Choshen Mishpat and try to follow what it says there. Chukei Chamorfi, however you pronounce it. The laws, the statutes of Chamorfi, as we will see what that is. Valpi Mashnisbayer Le'el, and based on that which we explained above, Sheyesh Shita B'Chazal, that there is an opinion, there is an approach amongst the Jewish sages. Shebnei Noach Koydem Matan Torah, that the Bnei Noach, prior to the giving of the Torah, Nitztavu were commanded, Ladun, to judge, B'Chavtalet Avos Nezikin, in the 24 main categories of damages, Kedine Yisrael, just like the Jewish laws, Shasidin Litztavis B'Torah, that the Jews will be commanded in the Torah. The Torah wasn't given yet. The Jews weren't commanded yet. But all of mankind was already given these 24 general rules that will be given to the Jews by Matan Torah. So according to that opinion, we now need to explain something which was difficult for many. Vihu, and that is as follows. Bishnas Tofresh Samach Aleph, in the year, the Jewish year of 5661, which would roughly correspond to 1901. 1901. Mm-hmm. Beginning of the 20th century. Matzu Be'ir Shushan, they found in the city of Shushan, Malchus Paras, which was the kingdom of Persia. Like we know from the story of Purim. Matzeves Evan Gedolah, they found a huge stone, like a monument of a huge stone, in 1901. Ve'aleha Chakukim, and on it were engraved Chukei Chamorfi, or Chamurbi, Melech Bavel, the laws of somebody. You heard of this? Hammurabi, king of Babylon. So they discovered this stone with engraved laws. Sefer Mishpatim Zeh, this law book, B'halachas Sheben Adam Chaveroi, which had laws of between man and his fellow man, civil laws, Machzik, contained 3,624 shuros lines, 282 seifim, 282 categories or little sections, bichsav hayeseidos, in handwriting written of the chiseled.
Oh, wow, that's a lot for,
a big stone.
It's a
3,624 lines. Deis shoynos yesh, there are various different opinions. B'kvias zmanoi hameduyak shel chamorfi, in the precise time of this king of Babylon. There are different opinions as to exactly when he reigned, when he lived. Yesh Omrim, some say, Shehu Amrafel Melech Shinar Shoya Bizman Shel Avram Avinu. Some say he's the man mentioned in the Chumash. Amrafel, the king of Shinar. Shinar is one of the names of Babylon, because that exact piece of land, sometimes it was Persia, sometimes it was Babylon. It's called Shinar, and Rashi even explains why it's called Shinar over there. Okay? Shinar, he's the king of Shinar, and that means he lived in the times of Avraham Avinu, Abraham. V'yesh makdimim, v'yesh machrim k'tzas. And then there are those that say it was earlier, and those that say it was a little bit later. B'chol eifin shehu. In any case, whenever this guy exactly was, zui ti'uda ho'atika, v'chashuva b'yoser, etzel umes ha'olam. This is the most ancient and most important document that the nations of the world have. As far as laws that we found historically, this is the most ancient and the most important that the nations of the world have. Hanesenes lanu, which it grants us tmuna, a picture, mechaye ho'amim, of the life of the nations, bizmanim hakadumim, in the olden times, manhigehem, their leaders, vashkafoisehem, and their philosophies, v'darkei chayim, and their ways of life. In other words, this huge stone with all these words gives us a lot about what the world and what the people were like back then. Soinei am Yisrael v'seirasoi. Those that hate the Jewish people and the Torah, so anti-Semites and those that are against the Torah, naflu al hametzia hazois, they fell upon this finding. They rejoiced. They had a heyday on this. Oh, look at that. Why? B'chashvam, for they thought, shematzu al yada, that they found through this stone, ila, a reason, lifkoim chas v'shalom b'kedushas ha'Torah b'kavod Yisrael, a reason to harm, to challenge the sanctity of the Torah and the glory, the honor of the Jewish people.
That happens all the time.
And what do they say here? Since they found in it mispar chukim, a number of laws, uvituyim, and expressions, hamasimim l'chukei ha'Torah, which fit the laws of the Torah, uvituyeha, and its expressions. So you see, before your Torah was given, there's this. So the whole... Upulmus charif hislakeach misviv l'shayla zu, and a very bitter debate began now to develop around this question. Rubam shel hachoikrim v'hamelumadim, the majority of the not philosophers, of the Chaykrim, people that are interrogating.
Like lawyers?
No, people that are searching, people that
Investigators?
Investigators, but what would you call them in a historic investigation? That's historians. I guess historians.
Historians, yeah.
I guess. So the majority of the historians and the learned ones, Gam mehoinam Yehudim, also from amongst the non-Jews, Dachu divreihem, they pushed away these words of these anti-Semites that were trying to use this to challenge the authenticity of the Torah. And they proved with clear proofs sheyesh merchak rav, that there is a great distance, vehevdel ikroni, and there is a fundamental difference between chukei ha-Torah HaKadosha, between the laws of the Holy Torah, ulahavdil chukei hamorfi, and to separate between the laws of this chamorfi. How do you make the difference? Shemaschilim betehila avodos zaros lekeil hashemesh ve'alil el haaretz. that it begins with praising all sorts of idolatry. B'misper mekoymos, in a number of places, hadimyon hu rak chitzoni, the apparent similarity is only very superficial. V'yeshna b'chol hachemar harav hazeh rak mishpatim achadim sheshavim. And in this very, very long, detailed, thousands of lines, at the end of the day, there are only but a few sentences that are equal to the language of the Torah. And even in those that are identical or similar, royim kav hamavdil b'neim, you clearly see the line of separation between them, b'pnimius ha'inyanim, when you take a look at it a bit internally and not superficially. Ki mishpat ha'Torah chodur beruach hamusari u'ktushas ha'chaim shel ha'adam hanivra b'tzelem Elokim, because the law of Torah is permeated with the spirit of humanity, of moralism, and of the sanctity of the human life, which man was created in the image of Hashem, which you don't have in those laws. There you don't sense at all, even in those lines which seem to be identical to the Torah language, you don't sense that type of spirit of what do we say? How do we call it?
Godliness?
No, spirit of morality or whatever, of any type of sanctity. Okay, so that was that. Chukei Ashur v'chitim. Now he's going to speak about another piece of history, the laws of Assyria and the Chitim.
Oh, this will be interesting, yeah.
Bishnas Taf Reish Pei, in the year 5680, which would correspond roughly to 1920. Okay? So it's 20 years later. Matzu Bebiras Ashur Ho'atika, they found in the capital of the ancient Assyria, Koivetz Chukei Ashur, a compilation, a booklet of the laws of Ashur, Shemiyachasim Oisam Letiglachas Paleser Harishon, where they attribute it, the experts, the historians attribute it to a certain period, a certain individual, which was Be'erech, approximately Lifnei Shloishes Alofim Shana. It was roughly 3,000 years ago. Oy Gimel Alofim Reish, Karev Lizmanis Nasatera, or 3,200 years ago, which is actually very close to when the Torah was given. Because the Torah was given, well, when Rabbi Kasher wrote this, Torah was given less than 3,300 years ago, right? If the Torah was given, if now it's 33 Memches Lamed Chaf Yud. When he wrote this, the Torah was given roughly 3,200 plus years. So he's saying then that this was about 3,200 years. So that's like really close to the same time as the giving of the Torah. The Koilulim, and this booklet that they found, Gamkin Chukim u'Mishpatim, they also have statutes and laws, Hanoigim bein Adam l'chaveiro, which are relevant between one man and his fellow man. Me'ein, and it's similar, it's in a microcosmic way, Shel Chukei Chamorfi, similar to what we just described, that they found that big tablet. Uvahem yeshnam gamken mishpatim achadim hadoimim l'chukei haTorah. And there are also certain sentences in this discovery from Assyria that are very similar to laws of Torah. Ba'isa Hashana be'erech, and approximately that same year, Nisparsim Mugamkein Luches Cheres Rabim, what was also became public was many pottery pieces, Shenimtsu, that were found, Karev Lanakra Biras Turkia, close to, I don't know how to pronounce it, Anakra, which is the big city, Ankara in Turkey.
Yeah.
Ankara?
Ankara? Yes.
So is that the capital of Turkey?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And over there they found the laws of the Hittites. These are the ones that lived in the south of Eretz Yisrael. That was written according to the estimate of the wise historians or whatever, these different archaeologists. 3,300 years ago. And some say it was a little bit later. And there too, you have certain laws which are similar to Torah. So far he's showing you how isn't it interesting that you have these other non-Jewish sources which are roughly the same time that the Torah was given, and they have detailed laws about civil laws, interaction between one man and the other, and they're very similar, or some of them are similar to the laws of Torah. Next one. Ashnuna Ugrias. Bishnas Tovshin Hey Tovshin Zayin. In the year 5705 to 5707, which would correspond to 1945, 1947. So he's going over here in order.
Oh.
First was 1901, then 1920. Now we're at 1945-47.
That translated Ugaritic text.
Niskalu Betel Asmar Loy Rachuk mi Baghdad. What was revealed in Tel Asmar, not far from Baghdad. Koivitz Chukim Shel HaMelech Darusha Ksuvim Aluchais. They found a compilation, a set of laws of the king Darusha, which were written on tablets. Taricham Shel HaChoikrim. So the date, according to the historian archaeologists, Mishuor is estimated Shnechtevu, that they were written Be'erech Lifnei Gimel Alafim Shvam Be'ez Shana, approximately 3,700 years ago. That precedes the giving of the Torah. Va'atikim oid yoser mechukei Chamorfi, and these are even more ancient than the ones of Chamorfi. Gam boi matzu mishpatim daim bilashoidim lepsukei haTorah. There too, they found expressions that are really similar to verses in the Torah. Okay, so got a bunch of things which were around the giving of the Torah and even earlier, and they seem to say the same language of the Torah. So Rabbi Kasher says like this: Ritzoini kan, what I want here, lamed al nukuda achas. I would like to focus on one point. Vihi, and that is lule matzu matzeva tika. Had they found an old monument, an old stone, Bas Arba Salafim Shana, 4,000 years old. Boifen Shloihaya Shumakim Klau Lesofik Batikusa, in a way that there would be absolutely no doubt in its age, that it's definitely 4,000 years old, no less. Shimelifn Izman Matan Torah, which means it would be absolute that it was prior to the giving of the Torah. If they would have found such a thing, which is absolutely clearly, beyond any doubt, prior to the giving of the Torah. Uva Ksuvim, and in it were written Chukim, laws, Bedinim in laws, shebein adam lachaveiroi boisoi hasignoin valoshoin sheksuvim b'teiraseinu b'parshas ve'ela mishpatim. If there would be civil laws between man and man, in the same style, the same language, same wording, as it's written in our Torah in the section of Mishpatim. Baror ledaiti. It is clear, in my opinion, shelefi ashkafas chazal, b'talmud u'midrashim, that according to the understanding, the outlook, the philosophy of our sages in the Talmud and in the Midrashim, ein b'zeh shum kam chas v'shalom. There is no offense at all. There is no blemish. It doesn't harm us. Nothing wrong. It wouldn't say, hey, look at this. Your Torah was given 3,300 years ago. 1,000 years prior to that. Look what's written. I have no problem with that. Elul ha'epech. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. Raya l'shitas. And this would prove Chazal's approach. As we explained earlier. Namely, that a very important fundamental point in the oral Torah is that the Bnei Noach were commanded. Bnei Noach, this is generations before the giving of the Torah. They were commanded 7 commandments. And until the giving of the Torah at Sinai, all the nations on the face of the earth. V'Yisrael bichlal b'nei Noach. And the Jews included in b'nei Noach. Every human being on the face of the earth, including those which later become called b'nei Yisrael, are b'nei Noach. Ve'echad misheva mitzvahs hu dinin. And one of the 7 mitzvahs is dinin. So if we were given these laws, so it's safe to assume that yes, they are here. These are the details. They were given. So that's why he says, I have no problem with that.
Right.
The fact that it's identical to Parshas Mishpatim and it's 1,000 years before the giving of the Torah, before Moshe was born, what's the problem? Yeah, I'm telling you, Dinim was given.
Yeah, Bnei Noach lived then. So.
That's it, and they got Dinim. Uli Rabbi Yitzchak b'Sanhedrin nun tes lePirush HaRamah nitztavu az boisem adinin mamish shnitztavu Yisrael b'Sinai b'Parshas Ve'ela Mishpatim. According to this opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak, in Sanhedrin 59a, according to the understanding of the Ramah, the Bnei Noach, back in the times of Noach, when they were commanded on Dinim, it is exactly the laws of Mishpatim that they were given. Every one of those laws in the Parsha of Mishpatim, that is what was given to Bnei Noach. V'shuv chazru v'nishnu al-yedei Moshe, and they were repeated by Moshe, in order to make them binding for the Jewish people, as we've discussed on a different occasion. You know, it's Matan Torah, it's like saying, okay, now we're starting all over again, clean slate. And we've discussed this previously, before we even got to Rabbi Kasher. Does that mean just for the Jews, or does that mean even for Bnei Noach? But be that as it may, until Matan Torah, there were laws, and all of those laws were binding for everybody. And if you recall, the Sicha of the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, about Yaakov marrying 2 sisters. Remember? Mm-hmm. So, basically, the brilliant answer that the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach gives, different than all the other commentaries, is that Yaakov, before the giving of Torah, first and foremost, his obligation was as a Ben Noach. The fact that he wants to be strict and personally take upon himself to keep the 613, that's his personal thing, and that's good and beautiful and wonderful and praiseworthy, so long as it does not contradict his responsibilities as a Ben Noach. So the prohibition of marrying 2 sisters, that's for the Jew. But he had a responsibility towards them not to lie or cheat. Okay? So Bnei Noach were given all of these laws. So what's the big deal? Not surprised at all. As a matter of fact, if you would show me word for word Parshas Mishpatim, of course without Moshe Rabbeinu's name mentioned, in some archaeological find way before the giving of the Torah, no problem. That supports what we're saying. Umatzinu beGemara Sanhedrin Nuntes, and we find in the Talmud Sanhedrin 59a, Hikshu, they asked, Lama li lemichtav livnei Noach v'lama li lemishnei b'Sinai. Why does it have to be written for Bnei Noach and then repeated at Sinai? Upirish Rashi Sham, and Rashi there explains what's the question. Eiver minachai b'Sinai ubi Bnei Noach. The prohibition against eating a limb from a live animal is given at Sinai, and it's for the Bnei Noach as well. Atu Yisrael mishum dekiblu Torah yotzu michlal mitzvahs harishonos. Just because the Jewish people received the Torah, did they now go out of being in the category of commanded and obligated to keep the original mitzvahs? Atkan. Up to there is the question. That's the question. So why do you have to repeat a mitzvah which applies to all of mankind? What's the gain for a Jew to have it commanded at Sinai when you were commanded before? So what comes out explained, shehikshu, that they asked, maspik bishvil Yisrael, it would have been sufficient for the Jews, at least in the question stage, before we get to the answer, but in the Gemara's questioning point, it's asking that it would have been sufficient for the Yisrael, hatzivui al ever minachai, the commandment against eating a limb of a live animal, shekasu b'Torah shenemar livnei Noach, it's written in the Torah, and it's even though it's written for Bnei Noach. Vein tzarich l'shanoisa b'Sinai, and there's no need for it to be repeated at Sinai. Uva'akum v'arayes shenemar b'Sinai l'milsayu nishnu, and the avodah zarah, the idolatry and the adultery, all that was repeated at Sinai for various details. Ve'ela mishpatim aboidedim, and these few sentences shenimtzoim b'chukim atikim that they are found in these ancient findings of these different laws, shel chamurfi, ashur, vachitim, all these ones that we mentioned that were found, hamasimim chuki Torah kedusha, which do fit with the laws of the Torah, that they are identical. Me'ashrim shita hanal, they actually are supporting this approach. That in the world it was known laws that are very similar to the ones that were given at Sinai for the Jews. However, the kings and the judges that were living in those days, they applied these laws according to their outlook and according to their needs and according to their situation. So even though you're going to say that here's a whole bunch of laws that were given, and some of them are given exactly as they're going to be given to the Jews at Sinai, that's fine. And then the leaders, the king or whoever, would take it and would either modify it or would apply it as he saw fit and necessary for his time. Because again, we're saying that dinim means you go by the laws that are man-made. But originally, you can still say that, at least according to one opinion, it was given, a set of laws were given, and they are identical to what's in the Torah. Okay, at this point, he's going to bring an example of a law. But I think we'll leave that for next time. So we are up to the bottom of 222. Are we off the air?